所講嘅11:15重開會議嘅時間啦請各位咧係返座位。
All right, let's resume. Please be seated.
我請啲同事。
All right, please.
因為到主要海迪爾。
Mr. Pt2, it's not 15 minutes yet.
好，咁
Dr. N. Zhang, for the second time, 3 minutes, please. Thank you, Chairman. A moment ago, I heard from the officials that we have this new idea. There will be a cap on the bidding cost. $60 million will be given to the failed bidders. And the idea is to increase competition. And more players will be brought in to compete. I think they are self-contradicting. If there are so many players bidding for the project, then it would be a good project and there is no need for the $60 million. Now, this is costing us $30 billion. Obviously, $60 million would be just like peanuts for these big conglomerates. For this project, design build would cost $30 billion. We all understand that here in Hong Kong there are only a handful of big companies that are capable of doing it. If you want to increase competition, DPO, if you put the operation into it, then there would be fewer players. We know which company would be capable. In a way, you are making the competition less strong. Design, build. Should we allow more companies to bid? You might say that they don't know much about these sports stadium. And the main thing is the main stadium. It's not like the cruise terminal. The cruise terminal was wrong in the design in the first place. We told the administration that it was very, very wrong in its design. For this main stadium with a capacity of 50,000, there are many main stadium around the world, in other parts of the world, where they use design and build. I hope that the operation part can be separated out for bidding. Dr. N. Zhang, this point was raised by other members before. I think you're repeating similar arguments made by other members. All right, shall we give the floor to the Permanent Secretary? Chairman, as you said, we have explained on many occasions why we adopted the consultant's recommendation to adopt the DBO model, because we are concerned that if we split up the design, build and operation in our tendering exercise, and that there will be no coordination, and like other parts of the world, the operational company may not be involved in the design and build, and they ended up with many problems. So that's the situation we like to avoid, having regard to overseas experience. All right, we have 31 members who have spoken, and they've spoken for 121 times. That doesn't include the adjournment motion, the speeches made during the adjournment motion, and also the adjournment of the item motion raised by Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. That doesn't include that. In fact, members have spoken many times, and I noticed that members are beginning to repeat themselves. I think we have to move on to 32A. We have received 32A motions, and we will be putting them to the vote.
So I need to draw a line for questions, and those who wish to speak for our last round, please press your button. And if we have members who had not even spoken once, then I will allow them 4 minutes to speak once. So let me read out those who wish to speak. We have Mr. Chu Hai-dik, Leung Kwok-hong, He Kai-ming, Nathan Law, and Zhang Lai-wan. Who else wishes to speak? Please press your button. If you don't press the button, then I'll have to draw the line here. Dr. Fernando Zhang, you've pressed the button. Gokake, would you like to speak for the last time? Please press your speak button, because I've received a lot of 32A motions and we have to deal with them. Could you give me 3 minutes? Well, a lot of members have already spoken numerous times, so I will follow the speaking order and the allotted time. But as I said, if we have people who have not spoken, I will give them 4 minutes. So that has been the standing practice of PWSC. So let me read out the list. We have Mr. Eddie Chu, Leung Kwok-hong, He Kai-ming, Nathan Law, Zhang Lai-wan, Fernando Zhang, and Gokake. And I have to draw the line here. Ms. Zhang Lai-wan, it will be your third time, so you'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Chu Hai-dik's the 7th turn. Okay, it should be He Kai-ming. He Kai-ming has priority. It's his 3rd time. Chairman, I want to ask a question. The Kai Tak main stadium, if we have Hong Kong teams, Hong Kong Premier League, will you allow them to use the main stadium? And the price, will it be the current rate? Commissioner, Mr. Young, Chairman, we can allow Hong Kong teams priority, and the rates will be similar to the Hong Kong Stadium run by LCSD. Hong Kong competitions are based on district, so if you nobody is going to host a game at the Hong Kong Stadium. We do have our Premier Leagues using Hong Kong Stadium, and it's a football association. They enter an agreement, and they have a rate and how to divide the tickets. So LCSD, they have a 2-year contract. So we do have Hong Kong Premier League teams using that. So we will have a similar arrangement. Next, Dr. Zhang Lai-wan. Well, Chairman, well, you said the questions I asked have been repeat questions, but legislators will have different viewpoints. So the question I am asking is just a concern and my stance on the issue. Well, it doesn't rest easy with me, including the 30+ billion expenditure, and you say I have contingencies of 2.3 billion, price adjustment another 8 billion. So that is already 10 billion. So if you think about the price adjustment, the contingency, are you forecasting construction material prices and labor costs are going high? And I heard recently that prices have come down by 3%. Well, why have your prices gone up by 30%? This is very unreasonable. So when the government says they won't go over budget, if they go over budget, I don't know what to say about that. I just want to state that we had a discussion amongst our political party where we go to the FC. We'd like a response. I will agree on design, build, and operate, but we should have two bills. We have design and build, and another one is for operation. We have to divide it into two contracts. If we have it on one contract, it's not feasible. So the cruise terminal experience, I don't have time to elaborate, but I am familiar with the situation. And up till now, they wanted to build a shopping mall. They had no idea what they wanted to build. It was very chaotic. Ms. Jiang, I note that you emphasize and you did not deny that you might have repeated other questions. So I'd like to remind all legislators, Rule 28, for repeat questions and repeated viewpoints, there are restrictions, and the chairman has some authority to deal with that. And I just want to remind members, according to Rules of Procedure, Rule 28, I can even stop your speech. I have not done that. I just urge... Chairman, are you saying that if one member, then other member... Ms. Zhang Laiwan, this is not your speaking turn. Please do not speak out of turn. I just want you to refer to Rule 28. Mr. Nathan Law, well, since it's the last opportunity, I'd like the chairman to allow me to speak my mind. Well, there are a few points. The DBO is very problematic. They are the unsuccessful tenderer has a 60 million in bid incentive. That is very problematic. And will you consider the DBG as proposed by Ms. Zhang Laiwan? And second, the stadium is too expensive. 10 to 15 billion main stadium. Now even the government says that it has a seating capacity of 20,000. Well, that's not relevant. The construction cost is reflected in the lease. So can Hong Kong Soccer League matches, can they afford that? I wonder. And I think regarding the penalties and the budget ceiling, I would like that in the contract to ensure that the government's interests are taken care of. And regarding the 57,000 retail F&B facility, we should build a stadium between 6,700 to 50,000 seating capacity. We only have 3 pitches. It's a waste of the area. You have so much on the F&B and retail. You should create more facilities for the community. Okay, time's up. Your questions are very clear. We don't know how you got to the figure 10 to 15 billion. The figure we quoted is 8.875 billion, and Mr. Nathan Law said that when the costs go higher, the leasing, the rent will be more expensive. Well, that's exactly why we don't want to have a private investment, because they will charge higher for the rent. So through our proposal, we want to ensure that the Hong Kong public, when they use these facilities, they can have access to it. What about my other viewpoints? What other questions did they not answer? Retail F&B, will they? Retail F&B can. Well, as a sports stadium, we need retail F&B when you have mega events. If there's no food, that will detract from our appeal. Now, when we build soccer pitches, this is what we've been doing. We want to increase the supply of soccer pitches, including the first, second generation artificial turf. We want to upgrade it to third generation turf, and we are also trying to identify more locations for 5-7 person soccer pitches. We will have these facilities in the whole area. Mr. Pt2, the 7th turn, 1 minute. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask Mr. Lau Zhan that if the FC, if there are members regarding Mr. Lau Gok Fun's suggestion who called for scrapping the incentive bid. If there's an over budget, they should not come back for more funding. So if, according to Rule 21 of FC, if we stipulate that as a condition, if that is endorsed, will the government withdraw this paper, or will they comply with the new conditions and make their application? So the question was about FC. According to Public Finance Ordinance 2A regarding the EMSD fund, the FC can stipulate conditions and make exceptions. If the FC exercises these conditions and exceptions, the government needs to comply with that. Well, I have a specific question. Let's say we add a condition that the condition should be included prior to the second last item on FC. So will the government withdraw this paper, or will they continue to allow it to be voted on? You're saying in the FC, or are we? I'm talking about FC. Regarding this specific suggestion, well, it depends on the FC condition exceptions, and I'm just saying Mr. Lau Gok Fan raised 4 suggestions. If those conditions and exemptions and conditions are supported by the FC, then the government, when they provide the funding, they will have to comply with that. So what did they not answer? Well, according to the law, if the condition is endorsed and the project funding is also endorsed, then the government will be bound by the conditions. But when Rule 21 is endorsed, they have some flexibility. The government either allows the vote to continue, or they can say, we're going to withdraw. So will the government withdraw this proposal, or will continue to allow the vote to go ahead? Well, the scenario is that, will the government accept the conditions to undertake this project, or will they choose to withdraw? Well, the government must have considered that. Chairman's understanding is correct. I just want to add that if the FC imposes these conditions, and if the government wants to use these funding, they have to comply with the conditions. But if the government chooses to not use the funding, then of course they are not bound by the conditions. Next. Mr. Kokake is not present. Then we have Dr. Fernando Jung. Chairman, my concern is that these significant, these large projects, can the disadvantaged and can they have access to it? Will we also provide them with job opportunities? When I asked the permanent secretary, she said that she would consider social enterprises. Well, Home Affairs is responsible for this area, and at this point they said they would consider it seriously. So in principle, I don't think, especially the 50,000 seat stadium, is appropriate. I cannot approve. But even if you do have enough votes and you bulldoze us, so in this contract, shouldn't you have a significant proportion of the land or area for social enterprises, and you should require this contractor, they should employ the minorities and the disabled. Chairman, I said we would consider it seriously, but I cannot pledge what percentage will be given to social enterprises because we haven't reached that detailed design stage. So we will see how we can provide more opportunities to social enterprise or disadvantaged groups, whether they can set aside some space for them in the F&B retail area. We will consider that. Well, you would consider seriously the social enterprise, but what about hiring a reasonable proportion of minorities and physically disabled? Well, the detailed tender document has not been drafted. We believe we will have the opportunity to respond to that later in LegCo. Well, I heard the Secretary response is that they will consider this very seriously. Next, Mr. Lam, go home. If Mr. Kokake does not return, Mr. Gohong will be the last. Well, Chairman, the officials sitting opposite me, they should listen to two pop songs written by Mr. Lo Dayao, and it's inevitable. I also want to quote from Lu Xun. They should be released into the light. So you don't answer legislators' questions. What can we do? What last words do you have? You can ask the government question by question, and they can answer on the next occasion. Chairman, I now formally exercise my right to request adjournment of debate. It's not adjournment of debate. We don't have that. You are referring to adjournment of meeting. So according to PWSC Rule 33, he had put forward a motion calling for an immediate adjournment. And according to Rule 33, they can speak 3 minutes. So let's invite Mr. Leung Gohong. 3 minutes. Well, colleagues, it's already midday. A lot of workers are out for lunch, so please come back to the room. We had a lot of questions. The government answered some of them and ignored some of them. We heard a lot about the DBO. I object to the main stadium. They're using 8.8 billion. I strongly object to that. I urge everybody to come back to speak your mind, whether it's regarding the tender financing or even the layout. I object to 8.8 billion being spent on the White Elephant Stadium. Even if you were to behead me right now, I still object. I feel that we need to be accountable to ourselves and the future. So you could drive to the cruise terminal. Think about the government is now asking for 10 billion to build a monorail to save the cruise terminal. Our government all the old age, the sick, the disabled, every day they are being adversely affected by the government policy. But we have the government's supporters. They are benefiting, but nothing is helping the disadvantaged in Hong Kong. So they can build the 8.8 billion projects, because as long as there's a stadium that needs to be built, they can build, they can operate, and forget the land premium. It's something very simple, and I repeat, I will not object to facilities that will benefit the Hong Kong public, but I object to entertainment that is packaged as sports, and I object to a group where the rich can go to the stadium. It's just we have VIP rooms in the Hong Kong Stadium.
There's a mainland official there. He asked me to go to VIP. He said I could say the protest there. I didn't worry. The police wouldn't be able to come in. Now, I'll say it again. All members should block this. If it could be done by the LCSD, we should leave it to the LCSD. If it could be run by a commercial entity, then we should call for tender. But we shouldn't adopt this approach. Dr. K.K. Kwok, 3 minutes. Chairman, I'd like to state categorically that we support the building of the sports park, but the present proposal is simply silly. So is it what the LCC needs to build most of all would be the indoor? Is it going to be the indoor sports ground, or is it the main stadium, or the retail and shopping outlet, or the catering outlet? The government is very confused. If we know for sure that for this district, at least we should provide an indoor, sports ground and the smaller venue accommodating 10,000 people for the residents of Kowloon East. You should build them first. The main concern is that the problem is with the main stadium. You are telling us that it could be used to stage extreme sports and equestrian events and so on. But why? How can the government, operate in this manner? We're talking about $31.9 billion of taxpayers' money. Our officials now are so blind. They've already overspent more than $100 billion on the Hong Kong Macau Dry Bridge. We've also spent a lot on the XRL project and so on. The government is blind and insensitive because it's only the taxpayers' money. You can imagine when they attend the signing ceremony, the PS, the commissioner will be there. You spend $30 billion, you can be a king. I mean, if you have $30 billion, you have all the spotlight and glamour. And you're subsidizing the contractors, $60 million each. You're worried that they will incur a loss. Whenever the government think of such ways to work with the business sector, things would always go wrong each and every time. Either you are tricked, or the contract is written in such a manner that it would put you in a disadvantaged position. When we asked them for the contract, they wouldn't give it to us, and they would refuse to set a cap on the project cost. and they make mistake after mistake. They made mistake with West Kowloon and the cruise terminal. They continue to make mistakes. They continue to put our taxpayers' money down the drains. So, Mr. Sports Commissioner, I think you should know that the sports sector is in a mess. And now well, for the kids, for example, are there any government policies to help them? You're just entertaining to the SFOC, which are occupied. The council is occupied by octogenarians. We're going to approve $30 billion, and we have yet another project regarding the provisioning of the homes for the homeless. I visited them a few days ago. I visited the home for the homeless, hostel for the hostel, operated by the Salvation Army. All the 80-odd places have been occupied, but they still have some vacant places for the upper bunk. You all know that in these hostels for the homeless, there are bunk, and many of the homeless people are disabled. They cannot move up to the upper bunk, and sometimes the upper bunks are vacant. And the government is using this as the reason. Just because not 100% of these hostels are fully occupied, and to relocate the hostel for the homeless, other than relocating together with the RCP, they are refusing to. Now we're talking about allocating public money to improve the quality of life for the people, and for sports we're spending tens of billions. We say the government doesn't know anything. They are leaving it to the market to design, build, and even operate the facility for 25 years based on commercial, principles, because they need to make a profit. On the other hand, we are reluctant to spend even a small amount. We've seen the Hong Kong Stadium accommodating 40,000 people. The utilization rate is so low, and yet we are building another venue accommodating 50,000 people. A couple of days with, for example, for children who like to ride BMX, the only venue in Kwai Chung is so poorly managed. We asked the HAB to improve. They worked on it for a few years, and still it's not done. We have many members of the public who want to take part in sports, who want better venues. The disabled people want to train, and I think the Sports Commissioner should know this. A number of deaf people actually want to borrow the venue at the Sports Institute to play bowling, because they have a computer system there to analyze the posture of the athletes. There's only one system in Hong Kong. They are up to international standard. They can participate in international matches, and yet they cannot borrow the facility. So many athletes in Hong Kong, are denied good facilities. Mr. Lau Kok Fun, 3 minutes. I don't want to take up all of my 3 minutes. I object to the adjournment. I've asked the Permanent Secretary, and I think she has answered all my questions. I noticed that members still have some concerns about the terms and the financial arrangements, and I believe these are things which can be further discussed at the FC meeting. Well, of course, we don't need to wait until we go to the FC before the government respond to our queries. I hope the PS and the Bureau, having heard our views today, and once this is approved, this project is approved by the PWSC, and before you go to the FC, we can sit down again or to talk about this, or you can give us your reply earlier. Taking on board members' view put forward by members, I hope that we can build the sports park according to our aspirations. So therefore, I object to the proposed adjournment. Mr. Kong Chun Yi, 3 minutes. We need to adjourn because we have made many similar mistakes in the past for many infrastructural projects. Every time we have a major infrastructural project, we spend billions of dollars, and shortly afterwards there's no cap on the budget, and then the government will ask for supplementary funding. For example, you have the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge, the cruise terminal, and so on. We have so many examples of mismanagement and lack of supervision. So we must therefore ask the question. And even the officials present, you're not able to bear the responsibility because you know that, it's like the XRL, cost overrun. We can't hold the official who was then responsible now. So I think we need to really put the interest of the people of Hong Kong on the top priority so that we can ensure that this lucrative project, I think we will be able to really monitor how it operates. But you're not able to convince us at this stage. The maximum penalty we talk about is only there's a deposit of $200 million, and but we've already had discussions on this, and we say we didn't, and we agree it's not a very good way to monitor this project. Nobody is against developing spots in Hong Kong, but I find it very ironic. For example, what is spots? Are we talking about just we only listen to the voice of the NSAs, but when it comes to the people at the grassroots level, the training of the ordinary athletes, they are ignored. For example, I visited some of the sports clubs. They don't have a lot of resources to support the operations. They don't have a long history, but they have many conscientious athletes who are their members. Before we have a strong sports culture, we're going to build this really beautiful venue. But I'm worried that in the end it will be used to stage concerts. It's built in the name of sports, but it's being operated on commercial principles to make a profit. So the government should be more convincing. I think we should learn from the lessons of the white elephants we've built before. Ray Chen. I think we can all see today, even for the pro-government camp, they do not support the government blindly. Dr. N. Jiang has insights when it comes to doing business. They also have common sense. They also have the experience and a conscience for this project, of course. Mr. Lau Kok Fun, although I have reservations about the main stadium, I'm not able to sign his submission. But I think the direction of his proposals is correct. So I don't understand why he objects to the proposed adjournment, because the effect would be the same. If the government could quickly respond to your questions, say within a week or two, then the problem will be resolved. We can make use of the adjournment to force the government to respond to your questions, including those from Mr. Lau Kok Fun and Dr. N. Jiang. I think it's a good solution. You ought now also have many reservations. And when it comes to the vote, you say you will support this project because you trust the government and you trust they will accept your proposals. Why do you believe that they will accept your suggestions? Is it that they've already given you the promise? In that case, you should let me know. Mr. Kwong is worried that the venue will be used to stage concerts every day. I'm worried that the operator, the contractor may not even do that. We understand that we don't have a venue accommodating 50,000 people, and that's why we're losing out to other neighboring countries. But in the past few years, we only have Coldplay. Just two groups performing here. Pt2 also came to Hong Kong. They staged 10 concerts in the Coliseum. If they stage concerts here, they won't be able to stage 10 concerts at the Hong Kong Coliseum. And that's all for the whole year. I'm talking from since May 2016. These are the two only items. So, Mr. Kwong, if they stage concert every day, we will be really lucky. I don't think there will even be any concerts there. And we will not be able to fill up the whole venue. In West Kowloon, somebody also referred to the problems there. I wonder whether or not we can hold them accountable for the 6.5 billion, and why there's such a big discrepancy, between the actual outcome and the original estimate. So I think whether it's the queries raised by ourselves and the pro-government camp, in the light of that, I don't think we should vote today. Florimo, I reiterate again that for all sports events, I would support them all in principle. But this time, the officials are not able to convince me that this is really appropriate and a feasible sports project, because the financial and the operational arrangements is very similar to the Western Harbour crossing. If you can afford the expensive toll, you get a fast passage. But the Cross Harbour Tunnel is seriously congested. $32 billion is a lot of money. How many consortia can really bid for this contract? In the end, given the current economic environment, you are further strengthening the oligarchy situation. And not to mention that the successful bidder will get a rebate. I agree with Mr. Kwong Chun Yu. That is, we're worried that you are doing it in the name of sports, but actually it's going to be run like a business. Is 60,000 square meters will be set aside for retail and catering. I thought this might be related to concerts, but Ms. Ray Chen said that may not be so. So, what exactly is our sports policy, for Hong Kong? A few days ago, I was told by the reporters, I didn't know this beforehand, that you are now staging the Hong Kong sports meet. Opening will be the end of this month. I don't think there's a lot of publicity. And until a few days ago, the number of people who enrolled for the Hong Kong Games was very low. And the LCST is now organizing lotteries. I think these are really ridiculous, gimmicks to attract, audience to come. And the media asked the LCST about the lotteries and what exactly was it about. And the LCST was very vague in the reply. And they have been asked many times before they said that by lotteries they were not really giving away plane tickets, but rather coupons, complimentary coupons, paid for, sponsored by the airline companies. And we were asked further, they said these are tickets for Southeast Asia to countries like Vietnam and Japan. So it's really, really, ridiculous. Nathan Law, I fully support the development of sports in Hong Kong. We really, lack facilities. I'm also a victim myself. I sometimes have to patronize the scalpers if I want to book a pitch for a game. I've talked to many people in the sports sector. When we talk about Kai Tak, they all, shake their head. Not because they think that we shouldn't use the site to build a stadium. But it's too expensive. There's going to be a retractable roof, and we're told that it's 8.8 billion, but I think eventually it will cost at least 10 billion. The Bureau already told us that you hope that the rentals for the rents to be charged will be similar to those of the Hong Kong Stadium. But even if you charge the rent for those who use the Hong Kong Stadium, it's not going to be conducive for developing sports in Hong Kong. For the local football teams, what they lack most would be training grounds and grounds for people to play soccer. Even for professional footballers and the youth leagues, they don't have any venues to train. The sports sector would like to have more of such, quality pitches for them to practice, and that the venue should be open to the public. And the Bureau told us that you're going to have $20 billion to do that. We all know that the numbers are all exaggerated. You have included the venues which back in the days of the Urban Council had already intended to build. So the numbers are inflated. I guarantee that you're going to spend the $20 billion. And according to the Hong Kong Planning Standards and Guidelines, there will still be a shortfall. There will still be scalpers. You will be using the $20 billion. You'll build new venues. You demolish some old venues. There will, in the end, still be an outfall. You ask the youth leagues, there will still not be enough venues for them to train. In Hong Kong, we have a serious shortfall of these sports venues, and it's not the problem you can resolve with the $20 billion. So as I said, we can do away with the retractable roof just to lower the noise level. You build this roof simply because of the need to stage concerts or also to stage the Hong Kong Rugby 7. But for people who are concerned about the development of sports in Hong Kong, they all think that your direction is wrong. These are white elephants, so I suggest instead that you should build more venues instead. Energy.
3 minutes. Chairman, in the whole discussion, the administration keeps saying that they have conducted extensive consultation and the sector is in support, and it seems that they are saying effectively that we are raising all these unnecessary issues. I think we have to ascertain whether we are raising unnecessary issues, or in the process of consultation, you probably did not give an opportunity to everybody in the sports sector a chance to express their views. Now, if you're telling the sports sector that the government is spending $30 billion on sports, and you have to consider how best we can utilize this amount of money. If you have an open-minded consultation like this, then we can highlight all these suggestions that we made, like lack of facilities, the training situation, and so on. Now, did you allow the sports sector to discuss the three venues separately? Maybe they are more concerned about the two smaller venues. For the 50,000 capacity venue, they probably won't use it. And you're twisting their arms. If you don't support the 50,000 capacity venue, then they end up with nothing. So their arms are twisted and they have to support you. Did you allow them the freedom to discuss the one-child sports ground and improvement thereof? Is this something that the sports sector can express their opinion? There is an opportunity cost. If you can improve the Hong Kong Stadium and upgrade the facilities, then we can save quite a large piece of land at Kai Tak. There is an opportunity cost there. So I hope that the administration would think about it. I don't think you should be conducting the consultation in a high-handed manner. And here in this council, you're left with a couple of months, and then you're telling us that everything is cast in concrete, and you can't do much about the changes. Right, Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, 3 minutes. Chairman, I think you've drawn a line before the adjournment motion was moved. For other panels, we have 2 hours for the items. For PWSC and FC, we can have such a long time for a single item. I think you should let members know where you draw the line. At least I get the opportunity to speak anyway. I think the major problem lies with land. Of course, there should be venues to address the needs of the sportsmen. There should be venues for the members of the public, and there would be venues for entertainment. I think if there are 3 separate types of venues, it would be a good idea. But Hong Kong is suffering from land scarcity. We don't have enough space for holidays, for sports, and all the rest of it. And now all these demands are subsumed under one single venue. And there are so many different ideas being put forward. Now, Hong Kong is successful because people do have their own aspirations, and they also understand our constraints. Otherwise, they would be disconnected. Many members object to this project in principle, but they have raised so many demands because they don't see the need for this in the first place, but they're still raising thousands of demands. What are they trying to do? I don't understand. Chairman, I speak to object to the adjournment. I support this project. As I said, we have an option, but to support it. Now, for these 60 million each, or 180 million dollars, the Kai Tak cruise terminal, they experienced the tender exercise falling through, and the government has to consider this alternative. And the most important thing is to make sure that there will be venues for the sportsmen and the members of the public. And I think we have to look into this. Mr. Kwok. Now, for this Q&A session, how soon do I want to end? I said at the beginning of the meeting that by the middle part of the meeting, I would have ended the Q&A. I hope you would follow the proceedings more closely. Now, the way I draw the line is that if there are members who haven't spoken, then I would let them have the floor for 4 minutes. Mr. Wu Chiu Wai, 3 minutes. Chairman, at the last adjournment motion, I said that for the management of the project, the DPO model, the permanent secretary seems to be very critical of the LCSD staff. She's saying effectively that the LCSD staff is not capable of managing the project. I'm sure that the LCSD staff would be capable of handling the public sports ground and the indoor sports ground, sports center. I mean, these are the areas that the LCSD is well versed in. With DPO, you are saying that the LCSD doesn't have the expertise. Now, I understand that they probably don't have any experience in event management for the main stadium. They probably don't have this kind of expertise. That much I understand. But for this reason, I put a very simple question to you. For the public sports ground and indoor sports center, they are there for the people of Hong Kong, and they can be used by the elite sportsmen for training and so on. This is something that LSD has been doing. And there is nothing special about them. In these 28 hectares of land, I wonder why you need a different management style or management model to deal with the situation. So would you consider splitting up the sports park? Now for the public sports ground and indoor sports center, they are just ordinary LCSD facilities. Now you may have the shopping center. If you call for tender, who would not have the expertise to handle the shopping center? In the sports park, I'm sure that there will be people who can run the shopping center well. But for the main stadium, you need to have a contractor that would be brought in to handle all the issues and to organize mega events and to maximize the utilization of the main stadium. Mr. Ted Hui, 3 minutes. Chairman, thank you. I don't have any in-principle objection to the sports park. I am a soccer fan myself. All the Hong Kong Premier League matches, the Lunar New Year matches, I would buy a ticket and go in and have a look at myself. But on this particular issue, many members raised concerns and questions to which the administration fails to address. So I think it is time for us to adjourn the meeting for the administration to think more carefully about the issue. Now, there is an element of making Hong Kong a place for mega sports events. It is nothing bad, but people are concerned what mega events you're talking about. Are you basically talking about the events organized by the Mega Events Fund, which is business-oriented? And at the end of the day, the venue may be utilized irregularly, and the government is not managing the place, and the site would be lying idle there. Now, will this become a white elephant in the sports sector? This is something that people are very concerned about, and I fully understand their concerns. And for the mode of operation, the DPO model, we've seen this before, and the contractor would be the happiest because they get all the benefits, and the members of the public may not be happy with the operation, but the government cannot do anything to change. Now, if a sports park is put there at Kai Tak, the Wan Chai sports ground will be demolished, and also the Hong Kong Stadium, what will become of them? What facilities, what design will be there, we're not sure. And you can't tell them a full picture about the various venues and what will become of them. I haven't heard anything from you about all these other venues. Thank you. Dr. Lau Siu Lai, 3 minutes. Chairman, thank you. The White Elephant projects, my organization coined this term 3 years ago. Now we're calling these projects White Elephant projects that are not useful. And having built them, we have to go to considerable expenses for management and maintenance. So White Elephant infrastructure applies to Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge, XRL, the NT Northeast development. Now for this project, I never used the term White Elephant. I feel that I am very moderate in my stance vis-a-vis this project, whether it is for entertainment, for concerts, for elite sports. There is a need for them. So I support the main stadium and also the smaller venues and all the community facilities. The only gripe I have is to put all the eggs in one basket and make it so risky. So it would become really unwieldy, and we simply cannot handle it. I think in our discussion, members across the political divide are very similar in their views. They are genuinely concerned about the issue, and this is a project that everybody would like to see happen. They want this run properly. I suggested DB and then O. Now, from members of the public's point of view, I think I should say something for Dr. Ann Cheung. She may be talking about something else. You should, Chairman, you should have allowed her to speak. Because for a complicated project like this, members of different political persuasions, I would like to see this done well. I agree with Mr. Tommy Cheung that for the catering industry and F&B sector, they should be given every assistance because they're struggling. The administration doesn't seem to be responding to members' questions in a proper manner. I would like to have more time for the administration to respond to our issues more properly. Also, the all-gender toilets, we haven't got time to go into detail about it. And also the workers that will be hired, the protection, these are the issues that are dear to my heart. I hope that there would be more time for us to submit our queries, for them to address them in more detail. So I support this adjournment motion to buy more time for more discussion. Right, administration, you'd like to respond? Chairman, we don't support an adjournment over the meetings. We've been trying very hard to address members' questions. Now, on the issues of concern to members, we've given the undertaking that we would consider them prior to the FC meeting. We would address them all. I agree with Mr. Wu Chiu. I don't agree with Mr. Wu Chiu Wai that I am putting down the LCSD. Now, LCSD is a government department. It has its own expertise, but its expertise doesn't include the operation of these commercial facilities and the promotion of these activities. Under the procurement policy, we have to observe the stores regulation ordinance. We cannot run the business in a commercial fashion. This is the practical reality. It doesn't mean whether the LCSD has expertise or not, because we have to observe all these restrictions. We want the business sector to run these facilities precisely because of that. I never said anything negative about the LCSD staff. I must clarify that. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 1 minute, please. Permanent Secretary has highlighted the problem. You think that after building the facilities, there will be people playing soccer there. There will be people doing concerts. Now, you can let the business world do it, and you collect the rent. Now, why don't you ask the business sector to build the venue, and you can assist them in the process? I think you've answered the question. The $8.8 billion doesn't have to be spent. Now, C.Y. Leung talked about the commercial space and hotel and so on. I object to you doing this. And for other parks, I don't have an objection. This is the key issue. I urge other members to do likewise. All right, time's up. Now, this adjournment motion moved by Mr. Leung and Mr. Edward Lau claims the division. The bell will go for 5 minutes.
This 就算係呢個。
寬鬆嘅，因為大家都過關嘅，咁但係去到差唔多15個鐘頭，即係我覺得今年不如話咁，即係28個鐘頭，再係雲化嘅網站嘅話，所以真係實際上咧，係咪？嗱，之前咁樣玩頭先係，你即係你自己用做呢樣，一去第一次重複嘅咧，再嚟喺即刻就係啊。 真係慘。
打俾一個10個鐘。
咁你話今日先20、50，今日已經無邊係拖到剩低16個。嗱，跟住咧，
咁衝嗰個
起碼都10個鐘。
仲有個鐘9龍。
你而家去到台即係呢個
呢個都希望係10個鐘啦，
真係慘。可能到時台喺度臨尾交會啊，即係7月底要一個禮拜連續日夜開會。
今年過到中九龍，PWSC 過到中九龍，
我諗都好難，真係好難做。
10個 item 我哋有20幾隻 item 要將佢辦。
慘啊！慘。各位而家要。
We now need to put it to the vote. Mr. Leung Kok-hong, according to Rule 33, he called for adjournment of meeting. After the vote, if we don't adjourn, then Mr. Kokake will be speaking. He will have 1 minute, and then we need to deal with the 32A motions. Okay, let's put it to the vote. Before I announce the stopping of the voting process, please check your vote. Okay, well, I'll stop the vote and display the results. 32 in attendance, 15 for, 16 against, and 0 abstentions. The motion is vetoed. Let's continue the meeting. Mr. Kokake. It's now Mr. Kokake's speaking turn. 1 minute. Please do not speak out of turn. It's now Mr. Kokake's speaking turn. Please reset the clock. You should not speak out of turn. Mr. Kokake. Chairman, not just this side, you can see on that side the pro-government buddies, they're talking about business principles being violated, and I think it will be quite a while before we can reach a decision. So I'd like to ask the Secretary, since it's so controversial, even though you might have enough votes to have it endorsed, but you'll see West Kowloon, the cruise terminal, they had a dismal ending. So at this point, can you have a more serious discussion on this item before you submit it to the FC, because there won't be any good outcome out of this. There's such a big public outcry. Why does the government wish to paint itself into a corner? Well, we agreed that there are some details that we will consider thoroughly, seriously. We will not withdraw the document. I'm not talking about details. I'm talking about the BDO. There are some controversial elements. You will not change the BDO concept, Secretary? Well, since 2014, we had numerous consultant studies, and up till now, we still feel that this model is the best. It's in Hong Kong's best interest. We will continue to explain why it's the best option. So you are forcing legislators to object, and this is unnecessary. I always tell the government, if you have a little bit of sincerity, we have a lot of problems with the data, we have problems with operation, we just wanted to, well, time's up. I think the Secretary understands your stance. So we have spent a lot of time on this. Let's now deal with the 32A motions. Let's deal with the first one, Mr. Chu Hoi Tek. We now have some 20 for more. Mr. Eddie Chu, Eddie Chu's motion. We now need to vote on whether we deal with this temporary motion. Mr. Eddie Chu, according to PWSC Rule 32A, has put forward a motion. He calls for a division bell. Let's call for division bell.
朱凱廸議員，你可以選擇。
Mr. Eddie Chu, you can read your motion. According to PWSC Rule 32A, since the main stadium in Kai Tak uses a lot of land, we urge the government to provide the area, the land premium costs, and such that the committee, the subcommittee, can understand the opportunity costs of this project.
你知道呢個，我而家話俾你聽。
哦，係，你同佢講，即係跟住落第三條。023。一個都係個 term 啫嘛。哦。 唔知道，唔知道，唔知道。係，而家咧係要投票。
We now need to put it to the vote. The first temporary motion under Rule 32A, raised by Mr. Eddie G. Let's vote. Before I announce the end of the vote, please verify your vote. Okay. We'll now stop the voting and display results. 32 in attendance, 15 against, 15 for, 16 against. It's not adopted. Rule procedure, Mr. Lau Guokfan. According to 40A, I'd like to change the division bell from 5 minutes to 1 minute. So Mr. Nathan Law wants to change it from 5-minute division bell to 1 minute. Those in we need to object. We need to speak. 1 minute. Why do you object? 1 minute. It should be 3 minutes. 40A does not require that how much time should be allotted, and so whether you're for or against, 1 minute. Okay, Mr. Longohong. I urge the pro-establishment to come back. I don't want you to live in regret. I will always object to the building of the main stadium. I don't want to point out that our government is stupid. They always package things as mega events, and they allow the private enterprises to make money, and we don't have mega events. We want to convene our own mega events and allow for construction projects to be built around that. So I've never seen any government as stupid as that. They use their own money to they're digging their own grave. Okay, Mr. Tan Ji-chun, whether it should be 5 minutes or to 1 minute. So pro-establishment members, we're now at a tug of war. But we have the initiative. We have enough quorum to cast aside the 32As and put it to vote immediately. But we should let things run their course. We allow you to think it over, and you cannot cast the deciding vote. We want the government more time to prepare their document, and before we vote on it, we already heard some partial responses to questions from the pro-establishment. So we don't want, as on the last occasion, Mr. Abraham Sheck, they reluctantly agreed to the proposal, and today it's not appropriate to vote, so we should allow 5 minutes. Next we have Mr. Wu Jiwai, 1 minute. Same thing. I've asked a lot of questions. So the secretary and the government, have they considered breaking up the project and tell us that this is the best option? I still feel that the secretary said that LCSC. I want to say that there are some work posts and that have been traditionally handled by LCSD, and now you want to remove them from that post, and then you want to have private enterprises take over. I think that will create more chaos. I just want you to study whether you can focus on some areas of the main stadium, hand it over to the contractor. If you don't face this question here, you will still face it in the FC, Mr. Dr. Lau Xiulai. Each temporary motion needs more time for consideration, because I now recall that Mr. Alan Hu, the lawyer, says that the underground we don't have underground rights. So there are a lot of things underground. So I'm confused. And how do we assess these? We need more time to consider. And of course, I would like we should not move so quickly. We need to reconsider how we should differentiate between the underground rights and above ground rights, and therefore I object for changing the vision bell from 5 minutes to 1 minute. We have so many amendments and motions. They're so complex, and I think we need more time to consider these issues, and the pro-establishment shouldn't be so rushed. Mr. Fernando Cheung, of course I object changing to 1 minute. Our discussion, even this morning I heard that a lot of pro-establishment, they had a lot of concerns, and whether it's the incentive bid, whether it should be so large, it's 50%, and we also heard the government examples. It seems that it's on the high side. We're giving 60 million to one contractor for the unsuccessful tender. That is too high. I think the government internally also has some views that the incentive bid is too high. But overall, the DBO model, it is of concern. Why the design, build, and operation, we have to hand it, and why isn't it given back to the government? Especially regarding sports, we need to time up.
What is most unacceptable is that the government had so many failures in the past, whether it's West Kowloon Cultural District, the cruise terminal, and so many examples of cost overrun. The government has not learned the lesson. For the sports, Kai-Tak Sports Stadium, it's packaged in the name of sports. While the intention is good, the approach is wrong. Changing the time from 5 to 1 minute will only enable the paper to be endorsed earlier, but I don't think it serves any purpose. It will only create greater social division. I understand that by the time this project is implemented, Carrie Lam would have been the CE already. I'd like the government to consider, before we have further social division, you need to talk to the new administration to see whether for this very controversial project we should still plunge ahead. So before we go to the FC, I think the government should, reconsider. So no other members would like to speak now, so we will now proceed to the vote, and the division bell will now ring for 1 minute instead of 5. Mr. Ray Chan? Okay, 5 minutes. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes.應該過唔到啦，咁多個，佢係想今日過。都好問啊，15、16好險啊！其實佢哋都係爭一個嘅 margin 係。
未班齊馬啊！
係啦。
一定要反對嘅咩？哦，我唔關。哦，明白，唔緊要，到時先啦，有結果先。係啊，危險。 特使你就通過係啊，及卡性我哋咧係明白嘅，明白嘅，唔使用，出咗結果先，我哋再講，或者唔使咁快就表得㗎啦，我口頭上講就得㗎啦。口頭上講就得㗎啦，要停一停，要停一停，同埋我改咗先，改咗先。即係可能真係要再加會喎。6月26，而家最遲6月24，因為可能要再度，都唔係啦，可能要真係要。嗰幾條去撳啦，加埋佢咯，佢明，係咯，好寫落去啫嘛，係咯。又開咗個例。各位而家要
Members, we are now voting on the motion moved by Lau Kok Fan pursuant to, that is, we will shorten the division to bell from 5 minutes to 1. Please vote now. Before I declare that the voting is closed, please check the vote that you have cast. The motion is whether or not the division bell should be reduced from 5 to 1 minute. Voting is now closed. We will display the result. We have 34 members present, 18 in favor, 15 against, and 0 abstention. So the division bell will now be reduced from 5 to 1 minute. We'll now move on to the third motion moved pursuant to 32A, and this is moved by Mr. Eddie Chair. Mr. Chair, you may read out your motion. I'm sorry. Those in favor? You're calling for division. Okay, 1 minute. Meanwhile, you can read out your motion. Pursuant to Section 32A of the ROP of the PWSC, given that this project is near to the MTR station, providing 600,000 square feet of retail and catering facility is excessive, and the project may end up as a commercial or property development project. So we'd like to urge government to reduce the size of the retail and catering facilities and submit another financial estimate for the proposal. Voting begins. Before I declare the poll voting is closed, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is now closed. We'll display the result. 33 present, 14 for, 18 against. So the motion is not carried. Next, we'll move on to motion number 4. Again, you are asking for a division. Mr. G, 1 minute. Please read out your motion. Pursuant to Section 32A of the Rules of Procedure of the PWSC, I move that in view that the Kai-Tak Sports Park project is controversial, we would like to urge the government to provide the financial estimate for the sports park without the main stadium for members' comparison. Voting begins. Before I declare the voting is closed, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is now closed. We have 32 members present, 13 for, 18 against. The motion is not carried. Next, Mr. Fernando Zhang. Mr. Zhang, are you calling for a division? Yes. So the bell will ring for 1 minute. Pursuant to Section 32A of the ROP of the PWSC, I move that in view of the fact that PWSC 2017-18-2, Section 18.2, namely the proposal that the government will not need to undertake the operation expenses of the sports park, the government will follow the established procedure and in respect of the replacement cost of the stipulated sports facility, the government may apply for funding. The committee urged the government to provide details regarding the specific sports and community facilities and the as to who will be shouldering the cost for the replacement of these sports and community facilities in order to ensure the public funds are spent properly. Voting begins. Before I declare the poll is closed, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is now closed. We will display the result. 32 present, 13 for, 18 against, 0 abstentions, so the motion is not carried. Members, we have more than 10 32A motions. I propose that we extend our meeting by 15 minutes. Those in favor of the extension, please put up your hands. For the PWSC, this is the first time. Well, if we want to extend, we need the support of the majority of members present. We don't need to discuss this, right? There is no discussion for this motion. Why not? Why not, Chairman? We need to go down and distribute pamphlets. You're calling for a division. All right, the division will ring for 5 minutes. 1 minute, sorry. I'm confused too. Okay, there is a call for a division. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong demands a division, so there is no discussion for that.
好，而家係
Voting begins. We are voting on whether or not we should extend the meeting until 1:15. Before I declare the poll is closed, please check the votes that you have cast. So the meeting be extended for 15 minutes. Please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is now closed. We'll display the result. 32 present, 17 for, 14 against. So it is agreed that our meeting is extended by 15 minutes. We now come to resolution number 6, moved by Dr. Fernando Joe. Again, you're calling for division. Yes. Pursuant to Section 32A of the ROP of the PWSC, I move that, given that PWSC 2017-18-2, Chairman, could you ask members to keep quiet? Regarding the bid incentive for the contractors who have failed in the bids, and the amount be $60 million, and also the 50% of the cost incurred, whichever is lower, we like to urge the government to provide information regarding the studies regarding the cost effectiveness of the bid incentive proposal, and how can we ensure that the tender documents will comply with the quality requirements. All right, voting begins. Before I declare the vote is closed, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is stopped. We have 31 present, 14 for, 16 against. Next one, again moved by Dr. Fernando Joe. Division bell will ring for 1 minute. According to Section 32A of the ROP of the PWSC, I move that, given that CB2 1230/161701 Annex 2, regarding the right to use the facility by the public and the government, given that the arrangement for the sports stadium and public sports grounds opening arrangements are not inferior to similar venues of the managed by the LCSD, we urge the government to come up with a monitoring system for the operation of the sports stadium, and to also provide for the arrangement for the opening hours and relevant restrictions to ensure the public will be able to use the facility. Voting begins now. Before I declare the voting is closed, please check your votes. Voting is now closed. 30 present, 12 for, 17 against. Next one, again moved by Fernando Joe. Dr. Joe is also asking for division. 1 minute. Number 8. Pursuant to Rule 32A of the ROP of the PWSC, I move that, given CB2 1230/161701 Annex 2, in the proposed operation, you've not mentioned about the public's the details regarding how the public may use the main stadium. We urge the government to provide supplementary information as to how the public can use the main stadium, and ensure that there will be fair rights for the public to use the main stadium. Voting begins. Before I declare the result, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting is now stopped. We have 32 present, 14 for, 17 against, so the motion is not carried. Next, again, this is moved by Dr. Jiang. 1 minute. Pursuant to Section 32A of the Rules of Procedure of the PWSC, I move that, given PWSC 2017-18 item 21 of the paper sets that the government all along has been liaising with the sports and entertainment sector, including the SFOC and the NSAs, the Sports Institute, elite sports athletes and performing associations, in order to collect their inputs regarding the sports park. The committee urges the government to provide a detailed report regarding the mode of consultation adopted by the government, and in order to ensure the right of the public to know. Voting begins. Before I declare the results, please check the votes that you have cast. Voting stops. We'll display the result now. 32 present, 14 for, 17 against. The motion is not carried.
議員嘅
Next, Dr. Fernando Zhang, 1 minute, please. Chairman, under 32A, since in CB2 1330, bracket 01, appendix 2, the waste disposal will increase recycling and minimize waste. This committee urges the administration to, in devising the monitoring system, include the environmental condition, like the food waste processor and water fountain be included to reduce the vending machines in response to the green living. Please proceed to vote. Members, please check your votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 31 present, 13 for, 17 against. It is negatived. Mr. Fernando Zhang. Under 32A, I propose that since it is the HAB will set up a joint monitoring committee, we urge the administration to increase the manpower and ask the contractor to hire EMs in Hong Kong, ethnic minorities and disabled people as part of the staff to fulfill their social corporate responsibility. Please proceed to vote. Please check your votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 31 present, 13 for, 17 against. It is negatived. Next, Dr. Fernando Zhang. 1 minute, please. Under 32A, for CB2 1330, Appendix 2, in the paper, it says that the government can use the venue on 7 occasions for free. That includes the indoor games hall, the public sports ground. We urge the administration to explain the rationale for these 7 free uses. If the government were and the details regarding the fee charging arrangement. Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, please check your votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 32 present, 14 for, 17 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. Point of order. Sorry. (32A). It will not be counted after 1 p.m. By extending the meeting, we don't entertain new requests. You can't just say so. Why don't you read out the provision? I've said that during the extended period, there's 11A. Would you read that out, please? I don't think we need to read it out. 11A, please have a look. 013, Mr. Raymond Chen. I have received some new ones before 1 p.m. You're worried about the new ones are not being entertained. Don't coach the chairman. Mr. Raymond Chen. You claim a division. 1 minute, please. Under 32A, I move that since this project is a DBO project and the cost is more than $30 billion, the small and medium-sized contractors may not be able to bid for it. The committee is of the view that the government should split up the main stadium, the indoor sports ground and the public sports ground as 3 separate projects so that the small and medium-sized contractors would be able to put in their bid for the project. Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, please check your votes. Voting now ends. Display the results. 32 present, 14 for, 17 against, no abstention. The motion is negatived. Next, also Mr. Raymond Chen. Claim a division. Bell will go for 1 minute, please. Under 32A of the PWSC, I move that since this project is built according to a DBO model, and many members of the public feel that they should have a role to play in being involved in designing the project, we urge the administration, before granting the project under DBO, there should be a design competition so that the architects from around the world can take part, and then we can pick and choose the right contractor to carry out the design work. Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, will you please check your votes? Voting now ends and display the results. 31 present, 13 for, 17 against, no abstention. Well, it doesn't matter. Please just say whether you support or not. So 14 for. That's Leung Kwok Hong's vote. The motion has been negatived. Next, please. Please read out the motion. Under 32A, I move that the committee, I move that for the DBO project, we should award the project to those contractors that have bid for projects of $20 billion and that have experienced an overruns, to be responsible for the design and build and operation of the Kai-Tak Sports Park to make sure the public taxpayers' money is properly used.
現在進行表決。
Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, please check your votes. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, voting now ends. I display the results. 33 present, 15 for, 17 against, and no abstention. The motion has been negatived. Mr. Raymond Chan, I claim a division. Yes, the bell will go for 1 minute. Under 32A, I move that since this project is built according to DBO model, and many members of the public are worried that if this project is entrusted in the private sector, the fees and charges will be excessively high. And this council urges the government to stop this DBO project model, and the government should be responsible for design and the operation of the park to make sure that the fees and charges would be well within the affordability level of the public. Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, please check your votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 31 present, 13 for, 17 against, no abstention. Motion is negatived. Number 17, Mr. Raymond Chan, I claim a division. Under 32A, I move that since the administration states that there will be a incentive, a bid incentive of $60 million. The public is terribly unhappy about it. The government has to make sure that the taxpayers' money is properly used. We're here till 1:15. I don't think we should have sufficient time to deal with all the motions under 32A. I will adjourn at 1:15. I think there would be objection to the meeting being further extended. Yes. All right. Let's put this to the vote. Will members please check their votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 28 present, 12 for, 15 against, 0 abstention, and the motion is negatived. Let's have one more. Dr. Kwok Ka-ki. Right, let's get this out of the way. Under 32A, I move that for 272RS project, the government adopts the DBO model, and the profits of the contractors should be capped to make sure that the contractors will not be charging excessive fees. Please proceed to vote. Before voting ends, please check your votes. Voting now ends. I display the results. 31 present, 14 for, 16 against, 0 abstention. The motion is negatived. Members, the next meeting is scheduled for May the 31st, Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. If members still have 32A motions, please do so before May the 16th, before 5. We do need time to scrutinize them. Thank you. May 26th, before 5. That's the deadline for the 32A. We do need time to scrutinize your motion. Meeting now adjourned. Thank you.